A concerned individual called the authorities on a teenager, thinking she looked suspicious. But when the girl's mother arrived, the situation took an unexpected turn. It was an ordinary evening at Holliston Park in Lexington, Kentucky, with golden light casting long shadows over the park's walking trails. Families, joggers, and retirees filled the park, creating a peaceful atmosphere. Laughter from kids echoed from the playground, and the rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze added to the calmness of the scene. 16-year-old Brielle Adams sat at one of the picnic tables near the walking trail, focused on her homework. Her laptop was open, and her notebook was scattered with highlighted quotes from historical civil rights cases. She had been coming to this park for years, a place she found peaceful and familiar. Brielle didn't notice, however, that someone was watching her from across the park. Gerald Whitmore, a man in his mid-50s, sat on a park bench, his gaze fixed on Brielle. He was dressed neatly, a polo shirt and an expensive watch reflecting his middle-class lifestyle. Gerald had a routine. He came to the park to take a break from his nearby home. But today, something about Brielle's presence caught his attention. She was alone, engrossed in her work, looking too at ease, as if she owned the place. To him, something didn't feel right, though there was no immediate reason for concern. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something off about her. As he watched, Gerald's thoughts spiraled. Was she waiting for someone? What was she doing sitting there alone for so long? His mind filled with suspicions, and he became convinced something was wrong. His unease grew, and he pulled out his phone, dialing the police. Brielle, unaware of the growing tension, continued working. She had no reason to expect anything out of the ordinary. But as time passed, 2 police cruisers pulled into the park. The sound of their tires on gravel interrupted her concentration. Officers stepped out of their cars, and Brielle's heartbeat quickened. She looked up, spotting the officers approaching her. "Excuse me, miss," the first officer said, his tone calm yet firm. "Can I ask what you're doing here?" "Just homework," Brielle replied, gesturing to her open laptop and notebook. "We received a call about a suspicious person," the officer explained. Brielle's confusion deepened. Who would have called her suspicious? The second officer, standing near the car, asked for identification. Brielle hesitated, knowing that some people were asked for ID in situations like this, but it didn't feel like a routine check. She slowly reached for her bag, trying to remain calm. Her movements were deliberate. She didn't want to make any sudden gestures that could be misinterpreted. As she pulled out her wallet and handed over her ID, she couldn't help but feel the weight of their watchful eyes. Before the officers could say anything else, a sleek black sedan pulled up, the tires screeching to a halt. The driver's door swung open, and a confident woman stepped out. Brielle's mother, Olivia Barrett, had arrived. Olivia's presence shifted the energy. She was sharp, composed, and unmistakably in charge. Her eyes quickly assessed the situation, her gaze landing on the officers before moving to Brielle. "Officers," Olivia said, her voice steady, "is there a problem here?" The officers hesitated, but the taller officer explained the reason for the stop. "We received a report about a suspicious individual." Olivia's eyes narrowed. "And that suspicious individual is my daughter?" she asked, her tone cold and unwavering. Brielle spoke up, explaining they had only asked for her ID. Olivia turned back to the officers. "What exactly made her suspicious?" she asked. The officer's hesitation spoke volumes. As the tension mounted, Olivia revealed her profession. She was a federal prosecutor. The officers stiffened at the mention of her title, realizing the situation was quickly spiraling beyond their control. Olivia didn't back down. "Let me get this straight," she said, her voice cutting through the silence. A 16-year-old girl sitting alone in a park doing homework gets reported as suspicious, and instead of questioning that assumption, you show up with your hands near your holsters? The officers shifted uncomfortably. Olivia's words continued to hit their mark. "What's the protocol for racial profiling?" she asked, her voice challenging. Brielle, watching her mother handle the situation with such poise, felt a mix of gratitude and discomfort. She had seen her mother dismantle cases in court, but seeing it unfold in real time was different. Olivia turned her gaze to the man sitting on the bench, Gerald Whitmore, the one who had made the call. "I want to talk to the person who made the call," Olivia said, and the officers, now completely out of their depth, reluctantly stepped aside. Gerald, who had been quietly observing, now found himself the center of attention. His discomfort was palpable as Olivia approached him. "Did you feel uncomfortable?" Olivia asked, her voice calm but firm. "You saw a black girl alone in a park, and your first instinct was to call the police instead of minding your own business?" Gerald stammered, trying to explain, but Olivia cut him off. "You didn't make that call when 2 white teenagers were sitting there earlier." "Why is that?" Gerald had no answer. His mind raced, and he found himself cornered by Olivia's questions. Olivia's next words were deliberate, carrying the weight of years of experience. "You thought you were protecting something, but what you really did was cause harm. You reinforced the fear I've had to teach my daughter about how the world sees her." As Olivia's words landed, the bystanders who had been quietly watching started to walk away. The officers, too, had nothing left to say. They quickly turned and left without another word, their shoulders slumped in defeat. Olivia and Brielle walked toward the car, leaving behind the officers and Gerald. As they drove away, Brielle felt the lingering weight of the moment, but her mother's words reassured her. "Tomorrow, we keep going," Olivia said, her voice steady. Brielle nodded, knowing that the fight against bias and assumptions wasn't over, but they would continue facing it, together. Gerald, still seated on the bench, watched as the car drove off. For the first time in a long time, he didn't know what to do with his thoughts or his phone. He wasn't in control anymore. This story, like many others, serves as a reminder that assumptions have consequences, and we all need to reflect on how we perceive others. Every choice we make, whether conscious or not, can shape someone's life in ways we may not fully understand.